Author is funded by the Pacific Northwest Writers Association, supporting writers from pen to publication since 1955. To learn more about the PNWA and their yearly conference, please go to pnwa.org. Hi, this is Bill Kenower of Author Magazine, and I'm here at Benaroya Hall in Seattle, Washington with Susan Orlean. So Susan, welcome to Author.
Thanks. I'm very happy to be with you.
So tell me, think back, when did the idea of story first light up in your head?
I know this sounds apocryphal, but I love telling stories from the time I was a kid.
Yeah.
Really a little kid. And
like 4 and 5?
Yeah, really. You know, every now and again I think, am I making that up? Is this just some sort of crazy memory that I've invented? But in fact, my family took a big driving trip across the country when I was about 5. When we came back, I started writing a little book about the trip.
Wow.
It's not that I was such a precocious youngster, but I think I always saw things in terms of this little narrative that could then be captured and revisited.
And so when you wrote that story, it was what happened, but in a narrative. You didn't put ponies and fairies in.
Right. I guess I was always a nonfiction writer from early on, and right. I don't think that I embellished. I think it really was a story about our trip. I don't know who I thought the audience was, but I did feel that the magic was to take this experience and put it on the page and have it preserved the way a photograph does.
Yeah. And of course, the great challenge for the nonfiction writer who's doing nonfiction narrative is to reduce life to something comprehensible and meaningful.
Always the challenge, because obviously you know, someone said to me not long ago, well, couldn't you videotape your interviews and your reporting, and that way you could then sit and review them all again? And I thought, you know, there's a filter that you have to put these experiences through. You have to find the narrative, you have to find the story. Otherwise, you're simply recording every moment of every day of every life, and that's just not doable. That doesn't become a story.
Right. Because you're not really, I mean, obviously you want the truth, obviously you want it to be factually accurate, but the truth is not every single tiny thing that happened.
Right.
It's something else.
Exactly. And I think that's hard for people to understand, that it's truer when it's processed than simply the raw facts.
Yes, and those same people who said that probably would not enjoy reading a narrative comprised of every single piece of factual truth that occurred between
I can't even imagine
what
how that would be. It would be horrible. It reminds me of people who have that strange memory phenomenon where they remember every minute of every day. On one hand, you think, wow, that's incredible that you would be able to recall every minute of your life. And then you think, God, wouldn't you want to filter it? Wouldn't you want to remember the highlights or even the lowlights and not every mundane detail every minute of every day?
Yeah.
And being a writer is not the same as being a recorder.
Right.
You are crafting, you're sculpting the facts of a situation into a new and comprehensible entity that then delivers something more powerfully than simply recording moment by moment.
Yeah. You're a translator. In a way, I mean, you're translating through you, what happened through you.
Yes. Well, I think storytelling is an artful reshaping, not that there's anything factually changed, but it's a selection of the salient. If you wanted to describe, if you wanted to describe someone, you wouldn't begin at the top of their head and then begin describing every cell of their body. You would find the salient, powerful details that in a way become truer than if you were to say, okay, they have 875,000 brown hairs on the top of their head. They have, I mean, that's not even true. What's true is the piercing, significant details that we experience as people. We don't experience life, and on an atomic level, you'd go crazy.
Yeah. And so you really, as a narrative nonfiction writer, your source of material is the world. And so as I know you get assignments, but obviously you pick your own. So as you're going about your life, is there some part of you saying, yes, no, maybe, yes, ooh, definitely?
It's probably a very annoying habit, but I can't help it. I feel like I'm constantly just sort of scanning for things that strike me, and maybe it's more, I'm just looking for what's interesting. And because my job is to then take those interesting things and go one step further, it serves me well to look at the world that way. Whether it's I'm sitting on an airplane reading a newspaper, if I'm walking down a street and see a flyer on a telephone pole, it's just there all the time. And other people might ignore it. Other people might say, well, that's interesting, and move on. But as a writer, I see it and I think, wow, that's interesting. I wonder what that's about.
Has your eye for story evolved over the years? Has something shifted with you in terms of maybe being able to see story in smaller and smaller spaces? Or have you taken a bigger view? How has that eye changed at all?
I think that it hasn't really changed that much. I think I have more confidence now. So I think when you're starting as a writer and you come up with an idea, gee, I want to write about a 10-year-old boy, just an ordinary boy. When you're a young writer, first of all, your editor will say you're insane. There's no way I'm going to have you do that. But also, you know, I think it's a natural impulse to think, yeah, but what's a story?
Right.
Is that really a story? I think with experience, with practice, you look at something like that and you think, I know there's a story. I can't tell you what it is until I really delve in, but I know that gut feeling that this is interesting.
And that's what every writer has to trust, is to learn to follow that, because you have to discover it as you go. Even if you're writing nonfiction, you have to go back and discover why is that interesting?
I think that's that is where you unlock the story, which is, here's something that struck me as interesting. Why? Why that and not this? Or what is it just triggering? What little synapse is firing when I see that? Why is that interesting? And how can I make it interesting for other people who may not have that same gut response of curiosity?
You become like a teacher of teaching other people why this could be interesting, revealing.
Absolutely. In fact, this has become my mantra as I've thought about it more and more. I think being a writer is a two-part experience. First, you're a student learning about something, and then you're a teacher turning to your readers saying, I've got to tell you about this interesting thing. So you really have two jobs, and you have to do them both with, they're somewhat contradictory. You really have to shift from being a sort of naive recipient of knowledge to turning and saying, I have a wonderful story for you. You know, come with me, let me tell you.